Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What kind of slump that I'm on, and the slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slip at this point, other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad, back with you. Toadstool Sports. It is Sunday, January 4th. Thanks to everybody who hung out last night for the, I feel like my camera's all tilted, man. What is going on here? We're on tilt here after yesterday. Maybe that's a little better. I don't know. Thanks for everybody who hung out for the football show. Last night, the NFL show. It's a crazy week always, man. The last week of the season. Week 18 is the new week 17. So I gave out 3 plays there. I'll reiterate them at the end of the show. You can go see my analysis on that show. Or you can wait for me to put it out on Instagram. Hopefully we can get some wins there. I'm going to have a few more plays here. I'm going to have 2 college basketball, 1 hockey, 1 NBA. I apologize, man. This camera is just like, yeah, all right. That's a little better, I guess. I don't know. I don't look good, so whatever. All right. Yesterday we went 3-3 on the show. JC, what's up? The other JC, Jeffrey, what's up? Stacks, what's going on? Kyle, what's up, man? Dude, yeah, I'll do an OnlyFans, but it's just my bets, yeah. And then you guys don't get them for free anymore. Yesterday, Wake Forest was a loss. They won and didn't cover. They put themselves in a hole and won the game, but couldn't really escape. I mean, that one, I don't know, man. Kind of on the wrong side of it. I guess they played better in the later portions of the game, but it wasn't enough, although they won the game. So we had 2 wins and non-covers yesterday with favorites, which pisses me off because typically when you have a favorite that's not favored by that much, if they win, they're usually going to cover as well, but that didn't happen yesterday. Boston College really pissed me off. That looked like it was an absolute, sure win there. They were losing 27-24 at halftime, and that's exactly what you want when you have a plus 6.5 dog or whatever ridiculously low-scoring game. They're in the game at halftime, looking really good. They were winning the game outright with, I think, 8 minutes to go, and then I looked a little while later, and it was like they didn't even score again, and they lost by double digits. I'm like, what the hell happened in this game? I have no idea what happened. I don't know what is going on with BC. I don't know what is going on with the Eagles. I'm going to burn my BC hat, man. It's just all there is to it. I don't know what that was. They can't even pull off that cover. And if you look at the stat sheet in that game, they had 10 more field goal attempts, I'm pretty sure, than Georgia Tech did. And they shot horribly. I know BC's offense is awful, but they shot 27% or something. When you have way more field goal attempts like that, you get way more possessions in the game. You should win the game outright, let alone you should at least cover as a 6.5 dog. Not even covering is ridiculous. When you look at the stat sheet there, it's just so insane how much of a bad shooting performance that was for BC. They should have covered that. They could have won the game outright. I'm pissed about that one. And then Long Beach State was an easy winner. I know they only won by 8 or something, but they were easily winning that game the whole time. They dominated that game. They were winning by 22 points probably with 10 minutes left. And then I don't know what they did. They probably got a little bit bored and complacent and just packed it in early, and they only won by 8. But that was a dominant win from Long Beach State from what I saw. They were crushing. And we did well in these later games, man, for the most part. We won on the Columbus Blue Jackets as well. Good thing I added that to my card because that was a no-sweat 5-1 winner there in hockey with the BJs. We won pretty easily with the Raptors as well in the NBA. Both of my NBA leans were correct. So the one that I gave it a play on with the Raptors, and I was also correct on the Minnesota T-Wolves, I believe was the other one. Was that right? I forget. But I'm pretty sure whatever one almost made my card, I think was also correct. Toronto was an easy win at the end of it, man. They won by a huge margin, but by the end of it, probably by 20-something points, I think. So that was an easy win. And then, of course, the Buccaneers absolutely pissed me off. They dominated that game, dude. There's no way they shouldn't have covered that. They had more than 100 yards of offense more than the Panthers did. The Panthers did almost nothing offensively. Tampa Bay's offense showed up. Tampa was actually covering that wire to wire, except when they were winning 10-7. That was the only time that they were not covering the -3, and at that point they were pushing it because they were winning 10-0 before that. Then all they did was get held to field goals. Like, they got that initial touchdown. They were up 7-0 almost immediately, I think, and then they couldn't score again. They just kept getting held to field goals. Then if you saw the game, they were in Carolina territory, up 16-7, and if they get a field goal there, there's like 3-4 minutes left, whatever. They're probably going to cover at that point if they get the field goal. They got it set up for a 38-yard field goal, and it gets blocked. And their kicker had made all 3 of his field goals prior to that in the game. 38, obviously, makeable. Just unbelievable that that's what did it. And then, of course, Carolina, who had only scored once all game, they score in like 2 minutes because that's the way the NFL works. And they cover and lose by 2. Tampa with the win and non-cover. I'm getting pissed, man. Like, so many of these games, it's like if I just went money line, I would have won. Like, you would have had to lay about -150 on it. But, man, that game pissed me off. I was so angry about that game. Like, that absolutely should have been a win for Tampa Bay. And that's the one that decided the win versus the loss pretty much. Although after that, we did get the wins with Toronto and Long Beach in the night slate. But one of those games, either BC or Tampa, if one of those goes the other way, it's a winning day. And it's these razor-thin margins, man. We wind up 3-3 on the day and a slight loss. I'm pissed, obviously. Both teams shot 15% from 3. Yeah, BC and Georgia Tech, they both are horrible offensively. Tyson, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. Saab, what's up, man? You're on the Nets. All right. Yeah. I saved the streak. I don't think I did. I don't think I had much of an opinion on that last one. Let's get into today, man. Hold on a minute here. Why is this... Dude, I don't know why this, I don't know. StreamYard just does weird things without screen shares. All right, here we go. We got college basketball here. It's mostly, I don't know, games if you want to consider it the undercard. Like, basically, it's like all mid-major games today, except for a couple of Big East games, I think. We do have a couple of games at noon here. Richmond and Fordham is at noon. It is on USA Network if you want to watch this A10, this epic A10 battle here. Richmond is actually a decent team. Fordham, maybe not so much. Richmond is coming off losing to George Washington at home. Richmond was most likely a favorite in that game, I would imagine, at home, and lost the game pretty badly by double digits. So you could expect Richmond to maybe be in a bounce. Actually, GW was a favorite. My mistake. They were a small road favorite. I'm just used to GW being overrated, man. But Richmond took that loss. Now they're going to Fordham. They do have St. Bonaventure on deck, which may be a look-ahead spot. So there are maybe some arguments that this could be a sandwich spot because George Washington was a pretty big opponent, although they did lose by 14, so it wasn't like it was close. Fordham did have, I would say, a closer performance, though, against Dayton. I mean, obviously, they only lost by 7. If you look at how this game played out, lower scoring game. Fordham was kind of in this game late, man. They were down 5 points late in the game. So Fordham is coming off a more difficult game, I would say. Dayton gets a lot of respect in this conference. They're usually one of the better teams in the conference. So I mean, in this game, the money's all coming in on Fordham, though. Even I kind of think they're in the slightly worse spot here. I don't think either team is in that good of a spot. Richmond is only laying 2 here. Kind of looks easy to play Richmond at 2 because they are the team with the double-digit wins at this point, although their record is only like 1 game better. 64% of the tickets on them, 78% of the money on Fordham. So there's that information for you. It looks like the market read is saying Fordham in that game for what it's worth. I guess I'll agree with it because I don't really have much of a reason not to, although the situation to me seems slightly against it, but that's the way that it is. Creighton is at Seton Hall at noon. We do have this Big East game up at noon. This is kind of an interesting game. It's one of the, maybe, this actually might be the best game of the day. There are a couple other pretty good games in some of the lower conferences, but for power conference games, these two teams are both all right. Creighton just beat Butler. That was a pretty good win. Now they're going on the road to face Seton Hall here. Creighton, I don't want to say they've been okay on the road. I don't know. They're 1-2 on the road. They lost to Gonzaga on the road. That's expected. I mean, what else is new? They lost to Nebraska, who I think is still undefeated on the road, even though Creighton is an in-state sibling to them. They couldn't handle them, and then they won easily at Xavier, but we know Xavier's really bad. Xavier could not even cover yesterday, so Justin was right with his handicapping of Xavier sucks. I thought Xavier should have covered that, to be honest. Xavier was the side that the market was indicating on in that game. When you looked at the market as the day went on, Xavier's just bad, man, and Creighton easily destroyed them on the road. That was their most recent road game. Creighton does have Villanova next. I don't think they're going to overlook Seton Hall, though. I mean, Seton Hall's been good this year, so I see Creighton probably showing up for this one. I think both teams will. Seton Hall just won at Marquette. Not an impressive win given what Marquette's done so far. Marquette's looking awful right now. Like, they actually have the worst record in the Big East right now, although I still think DePaul is worse than they are. And I don't know. Xavier's definitely not good either, but Marquette is not doing well at all here. Is Shaka Smart still there? He's going to get fired, dude. He's not a good coach, I'm telling you. He had that flash in the pan with VCU, and that's all she wrote, basically. He sucks. Seton Hall, that was a pretty easy win, to be honest, against Marquette. So I think the spot actually does set up a little bit better for Seton Hall here, even though I'm still not totally a believer. The money is disagreeing. Seton Hall, 60% of the tickets, 51% of the cash. They dropped from 2.5 to 2 here. So the money is saying Creighton in this game. Now, from a numbers perspective, I probably wouldn't disagree with that. Like, I think Creighton has faced a little bit more of a difficult schedule, and they're a little bit under the radar right now. What does Ken Palm have to say about this? Let's see. This game I wasn't going to play, so I decided not to. Ken Palm has Creighton as the slightly better team, so he's in line with the odds makers on that. Seton Hall is the better the better defense, obviously not the better offense. Usually I do like the better defense, although you're laying a couple of points with them. Both teams play pretty slow, and yes, Creighton is facing a more difficult schedule, like I said. Creighton actually is higher in Ken Palm's luck index, though, so that's not something that I actually expected. So a lot of stuff going on in that game. It's not a game that I like whatsoever, though. But the money is saying Creighton for what it's worth. So I'm telling you what the market read is saying in that one. I did not see that the Panthers got fucked by the refs. Well, you're biased, Garrett, because they got dominated on the stat sheet in that game. I don't see how you can complain about the Panthers in that game. They were just getting wrecked in that game. Like, Tampa Bay just kept stalling out. They were going up and down the field. They had over 100 more yards than Carolina. It should have been a much easier win for Tampa Bay. I'm fucking pissed about it because my handicap was right, dude. I'm sorry that your Panthers are going to not make the playoffs, but because I think Atlanta is going to lose today. But yeah, 4 terrible calls doesn't negate the fact that Tampa Bay outgained them by over 100 yards in the game, and Tampa was wire to wire covering that game. Like, it doesn't negate that. Tampa should have won that game by 17 points probably. It was just complete bullshit. Yeah, I did. I watched a decent chunk of it, and I was fucking angry the whole time. I was angry at the end. I was angry they kept getting held to field goals, and I was angry at the end of it. Dude, Tampa had a field goal blocked at the end that would have clinched the cover for Tampa. No, I think you're wrong. Like, dude, when you're a fan of a team, your bias just goes that one way. And yes, I'm biased because Tampa was one of my plays yesterday, but I think I was correct based on how that game statistically played. That's just how it is. The refs are whatever. Like, there's always bad reffing going both ways. I think the game was rigged so that Tampa would win on the money line and not cover, actually. I think the game was rigged that way, so I'm fucking pissed about that. And I would have won if I gave out Tampa on the money line. I'm fucking pissed. Yeah, Tampa dominated the game, dude. That's all I have to say about it. Statistically, the statistics bear that out completely. All right, UAB in South Florida is an interesting one at 1 p.m. on ESPNU. By the way, Creighton Seton Hall on Peacock if you want to watch that. This game, UAB South Florida, I mean, they both get some name recognition in basketball in the American. People are going to look at this and see South Florida's 8-5, UAB's 9-5, South Florida -6.5 here. Obviously, the spread looks very, very bizarre, right? So that's the way that I would have to lean just based on that. Like, people are going to look at this and say, why is the team with the better record, the team that was more recently in the tournament, I think so. Why are they getting points here, right? So the odds makers are telling you South Florida is actually the better team. I think they've probably faced a more difficult schedule. That would be the way I would look. UAB is also coming off a somewhat tough game against Wichita. Wichita's been all right the last couple of years, whereas I think USF is coming off some much easier game, if I recall. Yeah, they beat some non-Division I team here, so I think South Florida is the way to play this game if you're going to play it. And yes, South Florida, I was worried they might not have played after the Christmas break yet, but they did. The one worry is South Florida plays North Texas and Tulsa in their next two games, and those are both big games, so that could be a potential look ahead, but I don't really think they're going to overlook UAB. UAB is usually a decent team in this conference, so the money is agreeing with me on South Florida. 60% of tickets, 83% of the cash on them. Looks like they're headed towards 7, so if you like South Florida, I would try to get the 6.5. It is expected to be a higher scoring game with a total in the 160s as well. NFL is extremely scripted. It's basically, it's basically just the XFL. Vince McMahon should just take over the ownership of the league and bring back He Hate Me. Where's that guy now? Rod Smart. Dude, when the XFL first started, I had an XFL football just because I thought the football looked cooler. I was like, oh, they play with a black and red football? That's awesome, man. Although it's the Devil's colors. So, yeah, whatever. And also, I will say, Carolina was also obviously the square side in that football game yesterday. There was a sharp versus square divide in the market in that game with the sharps on Tampa Bay and the squares on Carolina based on recency bias. Although I admit the sharp square divide was much more prominent in the second game, and the sharps got that game right with Seattle, and I was correct on it as well. But it was not one of my plays. So Evan Flo, oh my God, does he look like Eddie Vedder or something? Oh man, dude, I don't pay any attention to wrestling at this point. I don't know what's going on in that sport now. All right, we do have another Big East game at 2 p.m. on NBC, but it's the atrocious Marquette at UConn, and this one's in stores at Gamble Pavilion, so it's in the more rowdy, on-campus UConn environment here. UConn, number 4 in the country. Ken Bum has them somewhere close, yes, 6th. UConn's absolutely a legit team. They are probably the best team in the Big East, whereas Marquette is the second worst, probably, to DePaul. So this is obviously a mismatch here. Marquette, they're coming off playing pretty close against Seton Hall. Obviously, they'll try to show up for this game against Connecticut, but it's going to be tough for them. UConn obviously only has that one loss to a very good Arizona team, although it was a UConn home game. I think that was probably a Hartford Civic Center game, so not on UConn's campus, I don't believe. Let me see. Am I wrong about that? No, I'm wrong. That was actually at Gamble and Stores. So UConn did lose. Their only loss did take place here. UConn's coming off an easy couple of wins over DePaul, Xavier. They're at home here. I think they're going to show up for it, man. They don't really have that much of a reason not to. This game isn't really surrounded by anything. The question is, will UConn cover the number? Like, obviously, I think they're going to win the game. They're a 19.5-point favorite here. 80% of the tickets, 98% of the cash on them. Total, obviously, is going to be pretty low, though. It's in the 140s. UConn likes to play slow. Marquette typically tries to play fast, which if UConn slows them down, that might frustrate them. If I had to play this game, I would probably lay it with Connecticut, but obviously, I don't quite love the idea when you know you're paying a premium for a team like UConn, so the line's probably jacked up 1 or 2 points just because it's UConn. UConn, again, they play slow, so I don't love laying massive point spreads with that team, but I think they will probably get it done, but we'll see. Mr. Pinsey, what's up, man? He climbs the ropes, yeah. All right. I don't know. So many of these games are just like, I don't know if I'm that interested. Siena is at Rider. This one, I took a look at this one because Siena is coming off playing Iona to within 3 points. That was a big game. Siena's been pretty good in this MAAC conference here, and Iona is, like always, one of the better teams in this conference. So that was a big matchup. Siena fell just short. And after this, they play Merrimack, who's still undefeated in the conference. So I could see them easily overlooking Rider here. It's a second straight road game. Rider, really not a good team. They're usually one of the kind of doormats in this conference, so they're very, very easy to overlook. Rider just had this game against Manhattan, where I saw people talking about this game, which it was very, very odd how many of the shots were actually being made in that game. There was I saw a clip that was like a 2.5-minute stretch where nobody missed a shot, and the shots were like weird, like baseline jumpers and just ridiculous threes with no setup. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, how is every one of these shots going down between Rider and Manhattan? And both teams are not good at shooting, so I don't know. It was a little bit odd. But yeah, Rider's coming off of that. They did lose at home, so they're still looking for their first conference win, and they're still at home. I think if you're going to play it, I would say you got to take the points with Rider, but man, it's difficult to do. And Rider, they're looking like a public underdog right now, but I don't see how that could be possible. Like, what public better? Oh, give me Rider, the one-win team out of New Jersey. I don't think so, man. Siena did drop from 11 to 8 here on the line. 88% of the tickets, 51% of the cash on Rider. I honestly don't know what's going on with those percentages. The total is low at 134. I would take the points if you forced me to give an opinion on that game, but I don't love it. Okay, let's see. And then Iona and Marist actually should be a pretty interesting one in the MAAC, also at 2. ESPN Plus is where you have to go for this game. These teams are both fairly good. Iona, obviously, a constant presence in the conference. Marist, kind of on the upswing the last couple of years. They've been playing better the last couple of years. It's an interesting one here. Iona just got that win over Siena. That was a nice win. Now, I don't think they're going to overlook Marist, but the question is, does Iona kind of tire out here playing 2 games in a row that are big games? They got to go on the road here, and Iona hasn't quite been as good on the road. They did lose to Mount St. Mary's on the road already as part of conference play, so not exactly great. So we'll see what they can do here, but Marist, it's going to be one of these lines that I tell you is a little bit weird. It's misleading. Marist is only at 8-5. Iona's 10-5, yet Marist is the favorite. Obviously, part of it is the home advantage here, but the odds makers are kind of telling you both these teams are about even. So because the line looks suspicious and because Iona's coming off a big game against Siena, I think if you play the game, I think Marist is the side to look at here. Marist just lost to St. Peter's here. Not a great loss. They went on the road and had to do that. But look at the spot that Marist was in, though. Marist had played a close game at Quinnipiac the game before then. Quinnipiac is one of the better teams in this conference. And yes, I know St. Peter's remains undefeated in this conference, but their overall record isn't that good. And I think Marist might have just been in a flat spot coming off the Quinnipiac performance. And then they had Iona up next. So I do think that kind of looks like it was a sandwich spot there. So I think Marist might bounce back here. That would be the way I would lean in this game, would be laying it with Marist. And I think the tendency of the public, if they want action on this game, is probably going to be to lean towards Iona because they're the more known name in this conference. Like, who the hell is Marist? The Red Foxes. What? Marist, by the way, is these teams are also in the same state. They're both in New York. They're both like somewhere north of New York City, I'm pretty sure. And I think Marist is not that far outside of the city, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Something like that. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Marist is a 4-point favorite there. That would be the way I would lean there. They're up from 3.5 to 4 there. All right. And am I like is my mind like freaking out there? Like, did Dave Smith go to Marist? Like before he dropped out or whatever? He went to some school, I think, in that area. I don't know. Am I like, I don't know. Am I misremembering that completely? Am I Mandela affecting myself? Am I Dave Smith affecting myself? I have no idea. But whatever. All right. We do have, what other games are even interesting here? Kennesaw is at Delaware. Now, Kennesaw State, they just had a big game against Liberty, man. Liberty is pretty much always considered to be kind of the class of this conference, or, well, the class of whatever conference they're in, really. But now they're in the Conference USA. They're obviously off to a really good start here. So Kennesaw, that was a big game for them. Kennesaw fell short. They lost by 8. I think they were somewhat in this game late in the game as well. So it was a big game for them. They fell short of it. They were down only 4 pretty late in the game. So big game for Kennesaw. Now they're coming off of that, playing another road game at Delaware. And I know Delaware was good last year, but, Delaware made that good run in the Colonial tournament last year. I'm pretty sure that was last year, where Delaware made that surprise run to the final and then fell short. So Delaware looked good then. Delaware's not that this year. I think Delaware is going to get overlooked, but also the weird thing about this is Delaware is now in the Conference USA, I think because the football team, as we talked about this year, moved up to FBS football. So they actually switched conferences in both sports. So they moved into the Conference USA out of the Colonial, I guess, in both sports. So Delaware is now in a new conference this year. And that does mean that Delaware at home should have a little bit of an extra advantage here because these teams aren't used to playing at Delaware, right? Because they're new to the conference. So there is that kind of conference newcomer home advantage here, although it didn't work out for Delaware the last couple of games, though. Losing both games at home already, but I think Delaware does show up here. They did just lose to Jacksonville State in their last game, I know. Jacksonville State's mediocre. I think Delaware shows up. I do think it's a worse spot for Kennesaw here. Kennesaw, they don't really have anything up next. Sorry, Justin. Missouri State, not great, but I think I would take the points if I was going to do anything with this game. It is up to 7.5. The line is on Kennesaw State. 50% of the tickets and 51% of the cash on that side. So act accordingly, of course. And then the other side of that is that Liberty is playing against that Jacksonville State team. Jacksonville State got the win over Delaware. Liberty had a close call against Kennesaw. Now the question is, was that a big enough game? Because Kennesaw has kind of made a name for themselves in college basketball the last few years. So did Liberty consider that to be a big game, or are they going to consider that to be like a scare because they're a big favorite? I don't know. That's the question that you kind of have to answer in this game. Liberty is a big favorite here. They're double digits, I think. Yeah, 10.5. The line has crept down just slightly, and the total is low in the 130s, so makes it easier to maybe look towards taking the points. I don't have much of an opinion on this. My initial thought on this, though, was that maybe Liberty is scared back into focus and that they are the side to look at here, laying the points, but it's not something I'm going to have anything to do with at all. All right, into the Missouri Valley here. The Missouri Valley's got some interesting games here today, man. UIC at Valpo, I looked at briefly. UIC just had a close game against Murray State, man. That was a big performance from UIC, and they fell just short. Murray State, pretty decent team in this conference right now, though they might not be quite as good as their record looks, but they're still undefeated in the Missouri Valley. I know I accidentally called it the Mountain West the other day. MVC versus MWC, man. I screw it up in my mind all the time. But yes, Murray State off to a good start here. So that was a good performance from UIC as I assume an underdog, even though they were at home. Now they're coming off of that. Could be a bit of a flat spot here, although they only have Southern Illinois up next, and I will be talking about them shortly. Valpo, not a very good team. Valpo is coming off having a close call against Southern Illinois, though, and Valpo was an underdog in that game on the road. So they're coming off a pretty good performance as an underdog as well. So I can't really get there with this one, although Valpo is probably going to show up because they are still looking for their first conference win, even though they do have Illinois State, Murray State, and Belmont, and Northern Iowa all coming up next, which are all big games, all bigger teams. But if I was going to play this game, Valparaiso would be the way I would look here. They're a 2.5-point favorite. The numbers crept up just slightly on them there. That is probably the way that I would go. Illinois, Chicago, I mean, they stink, although Valpo's not great either. But Indiana State and Drake sticking to the Missouri Valley here. I almost was going to give out a play on this one, man. I mean, if you look at the spot that Indiana State is in, it's pretty tough. They came out of the break and they upset Belmont, which is a huge win because I think Belmont is the best team in the Missouri Valley right now. Again, I talk about this Missouri Valley. It's a good conference this year, man. Like Illinois State, Murray State, I think Northern Iowa, Belmont, Bradley, all those teams are probably within the top like 120 or so in KenPom. And like Drake and Indiana State and I think Southern Illinois are not even that far behind. So and Murray State is somewhere up there too. So very, very competitive conference this year, man, except for UIC, Valpo, and Evansville. Those are all complete doormats, and the rest of the conference is competitive. Crazy conference this year. But Indiana State followed up that win against Belmont. I thought they were going to be in a letdown spot, and yeah, they lost by 9 to Northern Iowa, but they played well in that game. That game was close again down the stretch. So Indiana State, Larry Bird's alma mater, by the way, the guy who traumatized me as a child, even though I am a Celtic fan. Indiana State played close. They fell just short. So they're actually coming off of 2 huge games, and now they got to play another road game against Drake. I think they might come up a little bit flat here, man. I know you can't really necessarily say they're not going to be motivated, though, because Drake's won this conference the last 2 years, although I know it's a different Drake team this year. So I do like Drake in the game, but I don't know. I have a few hesitations about it. The other is that you have to lay points with Drake, and Drake is a slow-paced team. Total's fairly low in the 140s, so I worry about that a little bit. But I think Indiana State, having those 2 big games coming into this game, I think they're going to be flat here, whereas Drake, they had a big game against Illinois State in their last game, but they lost by 17, so it was not a good performance from them. And they're staying at home, although, yes, you might have to worry that they might look ahead because they play Bradley and Belmont next, and those are both big games as well. So I have a couple of hesitations with this, but I would lay the points with Drake if I was going to play this game, and I almost put it on my card. Drake is up from 5.5 to 6.5 here. If you look at KenPom, by the way, he has Drake the 3rd unluckiest team in all of college basketball. So he's telling you that Drake has underperformed what they really are right now at 363rd. So that is a crazy stat there, just to throw that out there. So they do look like a team that is playable. No, I haven't watched Eddington. Why? So that game, yeah, I like Drake in that game if I was going to play it. By the way, for Charles, I figured out what drop I was talking about, and it's very appropriate right now, and we can use it in multiple circumstances, so here you go.
I don't even like Drake.
You don't like the Drake?
I hate the Drake.
I love the Drake.
How could you not like the Drake?
Who's the Drake?
Who's the Drake?
The Drake is good.
Oh.
All right, there you go. You love the Drake. All right, I do like them in this game, but we'll see. All right, and then we got, and I could use that for Drake May as well. All right, we have Robert Morris in Oakland is going to be an interesting one on the horizon. I don't really have an opinion on this. Of course, Robert Morris won this conference last year. They're going to be in the mix again. They're off to a good start here. They did just beat Detroit Mercy on the road. Detroit Mercy, they're at least better this year than they were last year, although I'm not going to say that was a huge win or anything like that. I don't think Robert Morris will overlook Oakland here. Although Oakland, you know what I've been talking about. They really battle-tested themselves early in the season, so they faced some very strong opponents, so that should set them up pretty well for conference play, and it has so far. So 3-1 in conference play. But they are coming up a pretty good win on the road at Youngstown State. Youngstown State's a decent team in this conference. Now, Oakland's not going to overlook Robert Morris, obviously. Robert Morris, again, they won the conference last year. They're going to have a target on their back from the entire season for the most part. But the spot to me seems to set up a little bit more difficult, for Oakland, I think, because they're coming off a bigger game. So kind of lean to Robert Morris here. Oakland is laying 4.5 points, though, so I would maybe I would hesitate about that because 80% of tickets, 94% of the cash on Oakland, and it is one of those games where I think Oakland is underrated because of their record. Like, people are going to see, oh my God, Robert Morris is 11-5 and they're getting points against a 7-8 team. So yeah, I should have considered that more heavily. It's one of those games where the lesser ranked team, if you will, even though we're not talking about rankings here, but the team that looks way worse based on their record is actually the favorite here. And like I said, Oakland has some losses in the non-conference play because they played some ridiculously tough opponents. So Oakland is very battle-tested. So from a numbers perspective, it's one of those games where I think numbers versus situation are kind of in conflict here. From the numbers perspective, I think Oakland is the correct side, but from the situational perspective, Robert Morris might have a little bit of an edge there. But I guess, maybe I would go full circle with it and agree with the market on this one, agree with Oakland, just because it is one of those games where the line just looks very, very suspect. But that's a difficult game to figure out, man. We have Tulsa and North Texas. This is a pretty interesting one, man. In the American Athletic Conference, I think is or it's just the American Conference now, whatever it is. Tulsa's off to a very good start at 13-1, but they have not faced a very difficult schedule yet. They have some decent performances in here. A 1-point loss at Kansas State. They beat Rhode Island. That's all right. Beating Austin Peay is decent. They beat Northern Iowa. That's pretty good. New Mexico State is all right. That was a decent win. And then on the road at Western Kentucky is all right, I guess. But Tulsa has not faced like many of the big boys, although, of course, they're not playing the big boys in this conference. But I think Tulsa might be not exactly as good as their record looks. And, of course, they're in all the bracketologies right now because a lot of the bracketologists just go, oh, well, Tulsa has the best record right now in this conference. Well, actually, they don't right now because they're 1-0. Whereas Temple and Memphis are both 2-0 in the conference. But, a lot of the bracketologists have Tulsa in there. Not quite sure that's the way it's going to pan out, even though they will be in the mix for sure because this conference is pretty weak. Tulsa, now they're having to go out on the road to face North Texas, though, and Tulsa is coming off just obliterating Rice. I know Rice is not that good, but obliterating Rice, by the way, it's what I do when I go to a Chinese restaurant. But Tulsa was able to do that. Whenever you beat somebody, even if it's a bad opponent like Rice, you beat them by almost 50 points, you're going to be feeling kind of high on yourselves, man. So I worry about that a little bit for Tulsa coming into this one. North Texas, the Mean Green, which, by the way, I didn't even realize. North Texas, they renamed their team from the Eagles to the Mean Green when Mean Joe Green went there. Mean Joe Green played there. And I guess he acquired that nickname either before he went there or like around the time that he went there. North Texas literally renamed their team to the Mean Green because Mean Joe Green was on their football team. That's pretty wild, man. I didn't realize that. Like, I don't know. I watched the Football Life of Mean Joe Green not that long ago. I'm like, what? Oh, that makes more sense because it's like, why the hell are they the Mean Green and their logo is still an eagle? I don't know, but all right. North Texas, they're coming off a pretty tough game, though, man, against Memphis. That's always a big deal when you face Memphis because Memphis seems to always win this conference. So they went on the road. They played this ugly, slow game, which is, of course, what North Texas does. They play real ugly, real slow. They fell short. That's a more difficult game to come off of, man. So situationally, I think North Texas might be in the worst spot here just because of that. So there is that, but the money is saying to take North Texas. 86% of the tickets, 73% of the cash on Tulsa. Tulsa's down from 4.5 to 3.5. And the arguments that I could see for that is that, well, it looks too easy to lay the points with Tulsa because they have a really good record. The public never likes a team like North Texas that plays all these ugly, low-scoring games. Tulsa is not one of those teams. Tulsa plays faster, although KenPom kind of has the mid-tempo, but they like to play faster. They like to score more. Tulsa's way better on offense than defense, so it is a contrast of styles here. And the public pretty much always goes with the better offense. But you know me, I like to take points with a better defense, and that is what you're getting with North Texas in this one. If you want North Texas, they are significantly better defensively than offensively. They're incredibly offensively challenged, though. North Texas, very, very lopsided team, but better defense getting points. It's expected to be a slow pace because it's total in the 130s. high 130s, 139. So, yeah, contrast of styles, but North Texas, they're able to slow this thing down. That should frustrate Tulsa. So, a lot of things pointing to North Texas here, but again, I do worry that they're coming off that big game against Memphis. So, it's a game I'm staying away from, but it's an interesting one to talk about. Just talk about how I think about the game and whatever. So, my plays are not until the somewhat later games here. Oh, thank you, sir. You like rice, like the food or the school, which is in Houston, by the way. All right. Bradley at Murray State here. 5 p.m. ESPN 2, man. So this game gets a nice billing. It gets a TV slot here in the Missouri Valley. Maybe rightfully so. I mean, these are two pretty decent teams in the Missouri Valley. It should be a pretty competitive matchup. Should be good. Bradley coming into this game off of losing to Belmont on the road. That's a difficult game, man. And this game, you got to look into the box score. Like, how close was this game? Well, Bradley was kind of still in the game. They were losing by 8, somewhat later in the game. They weren't really that close, but within 8 in the final, minute or two of the game. It was closer prior to that, but still a big game. They went on the road, fell short against Belmont, and that erased a long win streak for Bradley. So a lot of times when a team loses a long win streak like that, they will be hung over into the next game. They are having to go out on the road. Now, I don't really think they're going to overlook Murray State and look ahead to Drake, even though I know Drake is the conference winner from last year and the prior year. But again, it's a different Drake team. Ben McCollum was in there last year. Drake has been a completely different team 3 years in a row now, which is insane. But I think Bradley should try to focus here on Murray State because they are undefeated in conference and they're playing really well. But the problem is, obviously, again, they're coming off that Belmont game and they just lost a huge win streak. And sometimes you lose the game twice effectively when that happens. For Murray State, they're coming off that game I mentioned earlier, an ugly game against UIC, Illinois, Chicago, where Murray State almost lost that game. And that shouldn't have been the case. Murray State obviously is the better of those two teams. So they're coming off a scare, and they don't have any big opponents coming up next. So they are absolutely going to show up for this game. So I would lean to Murray State if I was going to play it. Where are they at here? They look like they are getting the money. They're sitting around 5, 4.5. Not much movement on the number there. 67% of the tickets, 76% of the cash on Murray State. So the cash seems to agree with that one. I also agree with myself and with that. Murray State would be the way I would look at that game. Yes, I did say that. Yes, I demolished rice. Yes, at Chinese restaurant. Well, not really, actually. I mean, it's a carb. But when you go to the Chinese restaurant, you got to have some rice. But I'm more into the proteins and stuff like that, obviously, and getting something spicy. The rice is obviously... how do we qualify rice, really? I think it's necessary, but it has almost no flavor. It depends. You get fried rice, then it's a different deal, right? Fried rice is a totally different thing. Pork fried rice, that does have a lot of flavor. That's some good stuff. But if you just get the white rice as a side, you're basically just kind of using it to clean up some of the sauces and stuff that you have there with your other dishes. You know what I mean? So I don't know. But yeah, whatever. Chinese food, I'm an egg foo young fan, man. You know me, I like to load up on the proteins. You're giving me a pile of eggs, with some meat mixed into the eggs, meat and some veggies in there, and it's covered in gravy. Give me that, baby. Egg foo young, that's what I like. I am a Kung Pao guy, too, because I like peanuts, and I like chili pepper. I like spice, so give me a Kung Pao, but I get really disappointed because a lot of places make Kung Pao, these Americanized Chinese places, they'll give you a Kung Pao that's totally flavorless and not spicy at all. And that, I hate that. It's such a disappointment because a good Kung Pao is awesome. I should have the other drop right now for George, likes his chicken spicy. It was the Kung Pao, because Mr. Morgan or whatever thinks George is sweating because he stole the Yankee uniform or whatever, the Yankee uniforms, and he didn't. He was just sweating from the Kung Pao. Yes, risotto, the Italian rice. Risotto, also a really good dish. It has to be made correctly, though. It's tough to get it right, which is why it's the death knell for a lot of Top Chef contestants, because you got to cook it right, man. It's got to be right there. You can't undercook it. You can't overcook it. It's got to be the right the right density. Rice is important in sushi rolls, yeah, although there's, of course, like sashimi or whatever and stuff like that that doesn't have rice in it at all. I'm not a sushi guy at all, though. A bunch of people shit on me for hating sushi. I'm like, dude, it's raw fish, and it's what like all the elite coastal liberals think is like fancy. Oh, let's eat this shit. Pfft, all right. No thanks, really. Like I loaded up with like wasabi and soy sauce and I'm gonna eat it at all, but I don't like it whatsoever. I'm not a fan of sushi. No thank you. All right. Next up is one of my plays. Let's go. Best bets. Let's do it. All right, first best bet of the day is Southern Illinois plus the points. We are going with the Missouri Valley for this one here. We're going to fade the best team in the Missouri Valley, Belmont. Yeah, I know it looks difficult to do. You can get this line probably still at about 7. I know it is one of the somewhat higher totals in the 160s, but I'm still going to do it in this case. Both teams play fast, so it's not going to be a tempo clash between the two. Of course, it does mean there's more variance there when it's a higher tempo game. Of course, the favorite might have an easier time covering, but I don't like the spot for Southern Illinois, for Belmont. For Southern Illinois, I do, because look at what Southern Illinois just did, man. They lost 4 games in a row, then they broke that losing streak, and I like when teams break losing streaks, and they do it by beating an inferior opponent, because they don't get overconfident, but they erase that losing mindset, you know what I mean? So that was good. Southern Illinois beat Valpo, and they didn't do well in the win. They only won by 5 against a pretty weak Valpo team. So I like that because I think they were actually kind of in a sandwich spot in that game. Because look at what Southern Illinois did the few games before that. They were competitive against all the better teams in this conference. Look at this. They lost by 7 to Illinois State at home, and then they went on the road and they lost by 4 to Bradley and 3 to Murray State. So this Southern Illinois team is competing, man. So they're better than their record looks. They have all these close losses. So they've covered this number, or at least pushed it in all 3 of those games. So even though Belmont is better than all of those teams, I think Southern Illinois could do it, man. And again, that was a sandwich spot. They still got the win with against Valpo, even though they were coming off that game against Murray State where they played tough and they had Belmont up next. So that shows me something, man. Southern Illinois got the win. They didn't cover. So I think they're going to have some new momentum coming into this. They're going to show up. Again, they've been good against good opponents on the road so far. I think they're the most underrated team probably right now in the Missouri Valley, even though I'm not saying they're one of the better teams necessarily, but at 7-8 overall and 1-3 in conference, they're better than that. And as I just showed you, the 3 losses, they've already played 3 of the best teams in the conference. So that's what's going on here. And again, yes, I know Belmont is the absolute best, but we're going to fade Belmont here because Belmont, they just beat Bradley, man. That was a big win for Belmont. Bradley has been in the mix. Like, I think Bradley has made the conference final. Oh, no, they only did it last year, I think. But Bradley seems to, like, always be in the mix. Belmont got that win over Bradley. Now Belmont gets Southern Illinois, which I don't know that Belmont's going to totally pay attention to Southern Illinois here, man. And I believe Belmont might have beaten them both times last year as well. Let me see. So I don't know if there's really that much of a revenge factor here at all. But, yes, so Southern Illinois lost to this Belmont team both games last year, so there is maybe a little bit of a double revenge aspect here as well. And Belmont plays Northern Iowa next, and I just talked about how they're one of the better teams in the conference. They're one of the only undefeated teams left in the conference, undefeated in the conference, I should say. So Belmont has them next, and then they have Drake, the team that won the conference last year. And I believe Drake also was the team that eliminated Belmont from the conference tournament last year as well. So that's a big game, man. Even if you don't care as much that Drake won the conference last year, I think you still care that Drake is the team that ended your season last year, even though they're a different Drake team this year. So I think this is a sandwich spot. I think it's bad for Belmont here, so we're going to go with Southern Illinois in that game, man. So that is that play there. All right. And then what else do we have here? We got some West Coast Conference games. We do have Oregon State, Washington State, which is... it's an interesting game, and both of these teams are they're the orphaned Pac-2 teams over in football, but they didn't want to go down to FCS in football, so they didn't move down to this conference or the equivalent in football. But in basketball, they wound up in the West Coast Conference here. And it's kind of made them more mediocre at best, man. Especially Oregon State's actually not very good this year. So they are the worst of these two teams. But both teams are going to get up for this game, I think, because they are those orphaned Pac-2 teams. They have a little bit of a rivalry going on there. Oregon State is coming off a horrendous loss at Pacific. Pacific is actually not bad this year, but losing by 31 to anybody, 84-53, I think you're going to be pissed about that, and you're going to show up with a better performance in the next game. So that's what I expect out of Oregon State here. I was thinking maybe these teams already played, but they didn't. They're playing both of their games in official conference play here. They'll play twice, I believe, once at each home. Now, for Washington State, they just beat Loyola Marymount, man, and that was a nice win. I think they were an underdog in that game. Loyola Marymount is solid. Washington State's not that good, so I think Washington State was actually an underdog at home in that game. They pulled off the win. Now they get Oregon State, and they do have St. Mary's and Gonzaga as their next two opponents, the two elite teams in this conference, basically. So, well, Gonzaga is absolutely elite. St. Mary's is good and likely to make the tournament again. Washington State, yeah, I mean, even though it sounds crazy, they might overlook their former Pac-2 partner here in Oregon State. One hesitation I would have, I like Oregon State in the game to cover, but one hesitation I would have is that Washington State has the worst record and they're a 7.5-point favorite. So the line looks a little bit weird there. Again, like why is the team with the worst record laying points? Like the public's not going to want that. But the money seems to agree with me. For some reason, Washington State's all the way up to 8. I don't know if there's some injury information involved here with why that line has moved up from 4.5 to 8. But even if so, I think maybe you're getting extra value then on Oregon State, and maybe they'll play harder if they have an injury or something. So, whoops, I just clicked on it by accident. 67% of the tickets and 85% of the cash on Oregon State in that game. Total is in the 140s, so it's low, so it makes sense to maybe take the points there. That's what I would do if I was going to play it. I would take the points with Oregon State there. Then we have my other play, and I like this one, man. And then there is one actually Big Ten game that I forgot about. I'm going to talk about all the rest of these games, actually. Why not? But here we go. Best bets. Next one up, I'm doing something that I've said I don't usually like to do, but we're going to lay the points with St. Mary's, even though, yes, I know they're a slow-paced team. They're a defensive team. Total of 140.5, although it has gone up. It looks like the public is kind of against me here. The line's 12.5 now, though, so I apologize. There's a little bit less value here, but hopefully those numbers don't matter too much. But I would say find the best number you can. Maybe the number will... I don't know if the number's going to come back down or not, man, but I hate the spot that Seattle's in here, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. 67% of tickets, 62% of the cash on St. Mary's. So I'm worried now, I guess, that the public looks like they're kind of coming in on that side. And it looks like maybe some of the money isn't, although then again, the line has moved on St. Mary's. But the reason we're going to fade Seattle here is, first of all, Seattle's new to this conference, so they're not used to playing in these venues. So they might be thrown off by St. Mary's venue because it's this weird, small, tightly packed venue, and the crowd's somewhat on top of you. It's not as extreme as Pepperdine's, but the St. Mary's venue is weird, man. And if you're not used to it, it can throw you off. So that's one thing. But look at what Seattle did in their last game. They were not thrown off by the venue last game. They took Gonzaga into overtime at Gonzaga. Seattle had to have been, like 25-point dogs in this game probably. That was an unbelievable performance from Seattle, like probably their game of the year. Like I know normally, yeah, you're going to want to show up for a game against St. Mary's. They're one of the best teams in this conference, but Gonzaga is like a blue blood in college basketball, man. They're an amazing team. This year, they're really fucking good. And Seattle somehow played them into overtime, and that was 2 days ago. So I just don't see Seattle having anything left in the tank after that. That was an insane performance from Seattle. They almost pulled off what would have been probably maybe the biggest win in their basketball program's history. So I just don't think they're going to be able to do it here. Now they're going down to California here to play St. Mary's. I just don't see it. I'm not going to say they're going to be looking ahead to Oregon State because they're not that good, even though, yes, they're that Pac-12, former Pac-12 team. You don't overlook a team like St. Mary's. I think this is just a game where Seattle has absolutely nothing left after such a huge effort in that game. I think they're going to be completely flat here. And I think St. Mary's will just come in and easily beat them, in my opinion. St. Mary's is staying at home. They just had an easy win over Portland in their last games. They don't really have anything that important. They do have Washington State up next, but I don't know that they're really going to be looking ahead to that necessarily. I mean, now that they see what Seattle just did at Gonzaga, I think St. Mary's might be totally on alert here, man. So because they just saw what Seattle just did, I think St. Mary's is going to be more, they're going to be more focused because of that. Now, yes, St. Mary's does play slow, like I said. Yes, I am a little bit worried that they're somewhat high in Ken Palm's luck index, but they are the better team. Seattle's still outside of the top 100 here. Yes, Seattle's really good defensively. Like, defensively, they can actually play with a team like St. Mary's, and that's probably why Seattle actually was able to do decent against Gonzaga, other than I think Gonzaga took them really lightly. But Seattle is good defensively, so they can kind of hold other teams' offenses down a little bit. But Seattle can't score, and now when you're looking at a game where two teams are going to be playing slow here, or well, Seattle doesn't play that slow this year, actually. They play kind of mid-tempo, so the slow pace of St. Mary's might actually frustrate them more than maybe you would think. But also, if Seattle's not going to be able to score here, and St. Mary's is because they're a really efficient offense. I know you could say the same thing about Gonzaga. Gonzaga's very efficient as well, but yeah, I don't know. It just all seems to come into play here. Normally, yes, I like the better defense getting points. Seattle is, I don't know if they're the better defense. They're not the better defense, though. St. Mary's is just better on both sides of the ball. It's just the gap between the defenses is less. So, yeah, usually I like defensive teams getting points, but in this case, I do not. Like, I just think that the gap is so wide between the two offenses that last game for Seattle was more of an outlier. I don't think you're going to see it happen again. Not really much else to see here as far as like the luck index and whatever. And strength of schedule does go St. Mary's way, though the luck index goes against them a little bit. So not a whole lot to see there. By the way, I did forget to show you Southern Illinois, part of that handicap. Southern Illinois is 5th unluckiest in the nation, according to Ken Palm. I forgot to mention that. Southern Illinois is 361st in luck, and they play the 88th most difficult schedule. So they face a difficult schedule, like I said, and they're better than their record looks because of that. And they're very, very unlucky again. So Ken Palm, his numbers bear that out. And Southern Illinois, good defensively, by the way, at 93rd defensively. So defensively, they're almost as good as Belmont, even though they're way worse offensively. So something to keep in mind. And yes, Belmont is also not considered to be a really lucky team, but they've also faced a weak schedule so far at 293rd. So things to keep in mind in that game. And like I said, both teams play a fast pace in that one. I'm sorry, I forgot to bring up the Ken Palm numbers on that. All right, then we do have a Big Ten game here between Washington and Indiana. Still feels weird to call that a Big Ten game. Big Ten Network has it, of course, at 8 p.m. Well, not of course, because sometimes Peacock and Fox Sports 1 handle them. But Washington's coming off of a win at home against Utah. Easy win. They're not going to overlook Indiana, man. Although it is a weird travel spot for Washington, so they have to go over to Bloomington, Indiana. They do have Purdue up next, but I mean, Indiana's not a team that you overlook in basketball. They're doing pretty well this year as far as their record is concerned. So I think Washington will show up. Indiana's in kind of a weird spot because they actually have still not played since before Christmas, and they went into Christmas winning 2 games in a row. So Indiana, they could be pretty rusty coming into this game, man. Not having played since December 22nd, kind of a weird spot, and that break could kind of hurt their momentum a little bit. And I believe Washington did play, right? That game against Utah was, the other day on Monday. So Washington has the momentum coming into this game. So I think if you play this, I would play Washington in this one. Washington actually is not a horrible team right now, although Indiana doesn't really have anything to look forward to. Indiana's laying 8 points here, but I think based on the fact that Indiana, I think, could be in a rust spot, I would look to Washington, especially early in the game, like with Indiana being rusty, maybe like first half on Washington makes sense there, taking the points there. Then we have Loyola Marymount at Gonzaga. Loyola Marymount, not a bad team. They did just take a loss to Washington State. Loyola Marymount was a road favorite in that game, like I said, so maybe they were looking ahead a little bit to Gonzaga. But do you want to go up against Gonzaga after they almost lost as a massive favorite to Seattle? You probably don't, even though they do have Santa Clara next. And Santa Clara, probably the 3rd best team in this conference. I don't see Gonzaga overlooking this game, man. I think Gonzaga is going to come out more focused after they nearly lost that game. You're laying 24.5 now with them, but if I was going to play it, I think I would have to lay it here. 75% of the tickets and 88% of the cash on Gonzaga. All right, an hour in. Let's finish this up, man. We got NHL and NBA here. NHL, there's going to be one play that I'll give you. I have an opinion on a few of the NHL games today. Montreal and Dallas is the first game up here, which is an afternoon game. We got a couple of afternoon games here. Montreal, they're coming in off losing to St. Louis. I told you that was a horrible spot for Montreal. The problem was I just didn't love St. Louis enough after they beat Vegas. But Montreal had beaten Florida and Carolina the 2 games before that. They actually lost in a shootout to Tampa Bay the game prior to those. And they had Dallas up next. So it was an obvious sandwich spot that Montreal was in. They got caught. They had a really bad game, losing 2-0 yesterday. So I think they will bounce back and show up in this game. One issue is that obviously the rest spot is not good. They're on a back-to-back. They're traveling from St. Louis to Dallas. They're playing a 3rd game in 4 days, 4th game in 6 days, and a 5th game in 8 days, all in different cities. So that does make it a little bit difficult. And I don't think Dallas is going to overlook this game because Dallas just lost again to Chicago. So I think they're going to be pissed. And they've had 2 days off, so they're way more rested coming home here. Yeah, they do have Carolina next, but they've lost 4 games in a row, man. This Dallas team, I think they're going to show up in an angry mood, man. I honestly don't know how they lost to Chicago twice. I really don't. And Buffalo in between the two. So this team looks like they're spiraling right now, but Ottinger should be in net again because they're rested. They have way more rest than Montreal does in this game. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going to play the game, I think you got to look towards Dallas in this one. Dallas down from -210 to -200, 80% of the tickets, 99% of the cash on them. You're going to have to lay like a puck line with them or something if you like them, but that might be the way that I would do it. Or because I think Dallas is going to come in super focused because of all the losses and they're rested. It could mean that, maybe you don't want to deal with the offensive side of things for Dallas. So maybe Montreal under their team total makes sense in that game. A rare team total opinion for me on that one. Although for Montreal, I think it's going to be, again, their defense that gets more affected by their tired legs. So we will see. Pittsburgh at Columbus. Pittsburgh played yesterday. I think both of these teams played yesterday. Pittsburgh got the sweep of Detroit, home and home. Big win for Pittsburgh yesterday on the road. 4-1 win. Now they go to Columbus off of that. 3rd game in 4 days, all in different cities. And they play New Jersey next, so it could be a little bit of a look ahead because New Jersey's at least still decent. So I think Pittsburgh might overlook Columbus here. I think it is a sandwich spot. Now, I worry a little bit about Columbus. They got us the nice win yesterday, but it was a very satisfying win. Breaking Buffalo's long win streak, beating a Buffalo team that's been quite good recently. So Columbus, you could argue maybe they're in a little bit of a letdown spot here. They're on a back-to-back as well, but the better thing for them is they're staying at home. And before yesterday, they had a bunch of rest. They hadn't played for a few days, so they are definitely the more rested team here and the less traveled team. So I think Columbus has to be the way that you play this game if you play it. And the money is, for whatever reason, kind of disagreeing on this one. Interesting. I don't know why. Columbus down from -130 to -122. 70% of the tickets, 89% of the cash on Pittsburgh. I like Columbus in that one. I was considering that one, but I think it's my 3rd strongest opinion in hockey. But Columbus is my opinion in that game. No, the Penguins are not back. I've been saying all year they're not as good as they looked at the beginning of the season, and they started bearing that out as they started faltering. No, they're still like this team with like an ancient Sidney Crosby on it, whatever. Penguins are absolutely not back. Their goaltending is shit. No, they're not good. Colorado at Florida. This is my 2nd strongest opinion in hockey. I don't know if I'm going to quite be able to get there at this one. It's not on my card, but Colorado just beat Carolina yesterday on the road, man. And now maybe they will still be somewhat rested because they did have a bunch of days off before that. So they came into yesterday's game rested. But Carolina had them on the ropes, man. Carolina was winning that game 3-1 going into the 3rd period, and Colorado beat them 5-3. They got a goal in the last minute, not an empty netter, but they did score in the last minute to make it 5-3. It was a close game. Big win for Colorado. Now on a back-to-back, they got Florida, who's been good, and they are the returning champs, but Tampa Bay has an even better record, and they're the next opponent for Colorado. So it's looking maybe slightly sandwichy for Colorado here. And I think Florida will show up because Florida, they're coming off of the playing in the Winter Classic that was indoors in fucking Florida. And they lost the game horribly, 5-1. So they got embarrassed in the Winter Classic, man, in a highly publicized game. That is not what you want to do. You do not want to get embarrassed, obviously, in a game like that. So when that happens, I think you're absolutely going to show up in your next game with some intensity. They're going to want to try to get a win here. This has been a very bad homestand for them. They're back in their actual home arena here. So I think Florida is the side in this game. If you're going to play this game, I would do it. Florida money line. Colorado, minus 125 is the price on them. 73% of tickets, 53% of the cash on Colorado. So they're a public side with less of the money on them. I like Florida in that one. If I was going to add a play to my card here for hockey, it would be that. My hesitation is that maybe Colorado still shows up here because it's still Florida. It's still the returning champs. But I could definitely see Colorado's win streak taking a hit here in this one and Florida getting the win here. That's how I would do it. Don't care. Second place, who gives a shit? They're in a terrible division. Dude, the odds makers are telling you that Pittsburgh is ass. Like, they're an underdog in this game against Columbus. Columbus is getting more than home ice. That's all you need to know right there. The odds makers are telling you Columbus is better than Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is not good. All right, Carolina at New Jersey. This is my play. We're going New Jersey, money line here. I think this is the way to go. Carolina, as I just pointed out, they're coming off a heartbreaking loss to Colorado, man. They had Colorado on the ropes. I know they've lost 3 games in a row here. Normally, I would say you're going to want to bounce back from that, but they're playing a third game in 4 days. They're on a back-to-back. They're oddly traveling up to Red Bank, New Jersey. I think, is it Red Bank? Where does New Jersey play? I forget. No, it's not Red Bank. I forget. Wherever the fuck New Jersey plays. Is it East Rutherford? I don't know. Carolina's going up there, wherever the hell it is. This game, man, this is a heartbreaking game for Carolina. And again, it's weird to have to travel up to New Jersey for a single game before you come back home on a back-to-back. So I don't know who they're going to have in net for this one. Anderson actually was okay in net yesterday, but kind of cost them the game at the end of it, though. But they did lose because of some power plays as well. Some penalties really put Carolina in a tough spot. But if you look at what happened in this game, Carolina was winning the game 3-1 into the third period. Like I said, they still had the lead until it got tied within a minute getting into the third period. Then they were only losing by 1 for a huge chunk of the remainder of the game, and they gave up that last goal, like I said, in the last minute of the game, McKinnon scoring there. So this was a close game. Carolina felt like they probably had the game going into the third period. Absolutely brutal loss for Carolina. So I think they're in a major letdown spot here. If you look at the stats, they got outplayed in the game. Colorado had more shots by 6, 1 more hit, and they dominated the faceoff, 63%. So Carolina, I know they're a really good team, but they weren't as good in that game as it looked like. Colorado's really fucking good, though, man. Now Carolina's going to play New Jersey. This New Jersey team, they've been struggling a bit. And after that, Carolina comes back home, and they face Dallas. That's a huge game. I know this is a conference game, but I just don't see it. I think this is a terrible spot that Carolina's in here. And for New Jersey, yeah, they played yesterday, but they're at home, and they had a lot of time off before that. They hadn't played since Wednesday before they played yesterday, so they're not going to be as tired as Carolina, I don't think. And they're staying at home. They had an easy win yesterday against Utah, 4-1. They're not going to overlook Carolina, still one of the top teams in the conference. Even though they do have the Islanders next, they did lose the last time they were playing the Islanders. But again, you don't overlook Carolina, man. Spot's horrible for Carolina. We're going with it. New Jersey is the play. 75% of tickets, 65% of the cash on Carolina. They're sitting at minus 120. So you're getting the home dog price here as well. I like these small home dogs when you're catching the public road favorite in a bad spot. Let's do it. Let's go with the Devils, baby. And I'm only doing it for this reason, though. Yeah.
Don't mess with the devil, buddy. We're number 1. We beat anybody. We're the Devils. The Devils. Diablo. Dios mío. El diablo.
That's the actual reason why we're doing it. No, I think I have a sound explanation there on that one. Pistons and Cavs. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that game, although I don't do basketball X's and O's. I just do situations pretty much. Vegas at Chicago. This game, I don't have as good of a read on this one, I don't think. Vegas has lost 4 games in a row, though, man. And losing to St. Louis on Friday, you got to think they're going to be pretty pissed off coming into this game. And Chicago, they keep winning, and at some point, it's going to stop because Chicago's not that good. They did not have the letdown in their last game after they beat Dallas. They went on the road and they beat Washington in a shootout. Now, they're playing a third game in 4 days, traveling between every game, which is ridiculous. Coming back home here on the back-to-back, pretty clearly a bad spot for Chicago. Now, my worry is that they won't overlook Vegas. That's the one worry here. And last time Soderblom was in net, they actually beat Dallas with him in net, although he really hasn't been good. Like the few games that he played, or really all the games he played prior to that in the last 2 months were pretty much all bad. So I do think there's a lot of bad for Chicago here. If I was going to play it, I would lay it with Vegas in this one, but you got to find a way to play Vegas because the odds makers are still telling you, yeah, Chicago's not good. Vegas up from minus 249 to minus 250 on the money line. 71% of tickets, 76% of the cash on Vegas. Vegas, probably you'd have to lay the puck line on this and hope that they just blow Chicago off the ice. Or, maybe find some other way of playing this. Vegas over their team total maybe makes sense here because Chicago, after all those big games, their defense might lapse. Their goaltending is going to probably be bad with Soderblom in net. So, yeah, I don't mind Vegas over a team total in that game either. Although you're going to be asking them to score probably quite a bit of goals in that game. Probably about 4 goals. But that's how I look at that game. NBA. Then we'll do the final NFL read before I leave. NBA, we have 8 games here. Detroit, Cleveland is in the afternoon. None of these games are getting a TV billing, which is bizarre. Blame the NFL, I guess, for that. Detroit coming into this game off a loss at home to Miami. And as you see, that was a return home spot, so it wasn't the greatest spot for Detroit. They'd beaten the Lakers the game before that, too, on LeBron's birthday. So that was a pretty big win for Detroit. They came home, they got caught, they lost to Miami. Maybe they were even looking ahead to Cleveland and New York here. It is weird that it's a 1-game travel spot, but I don't think they're going to overlook Cleveland, even though they do play the Knicks tomorrow. I think Detroit's going to be angry after that loss. I think it's a bounce-back spot for Detroit here. For Cleveland, I don't like the spot as much. Cleveland is staying at home, but they just had a nice win over Denver. I know it was without Jokic, but Cleveland got the win. Denver's still Denver. They're still a good team. Cleveland's not going to overlook Detroit, but I think the spot just sets up a little bit better for Detroit here. That is the way that I would look in this game. Pistons look like they're getting the money here. Cavs are down from 5 to 4.5. 67% of tickets, 88% of the cash on the Pistons. Now, I worry a little bit about this because it's one of those misleading lines, right? Oh my God, I'm getting 4.5 points with the Pistons who have the better record here, right? So I think the public might look that way. But they might be right in this game. Given the situation, I lean to the Pistons as well in that game. But I'm not going to pay that much attention to it. Overlooking different from tanking. It's different because that's exactly what. Because you get complacent and you think the game is going to be easy. Whereas tanking is intentionally not trying. Getting complacent is not, you're not doing it intentionally. Getting complacent is, it's almost like an instinctual thing where you just think the game is going to be easier. So you don't put in as big of an effort for that reason. You're not actually trying to lose the game. Tanking would imply you're trying to lose, which is completely different. It's unintentional versus intentional. It's instinctual versus intentional, basically. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's, hopefully that's a good explanation. I don't know. Because I know I'm arguing that tanking is not a thing, and everybody's getting fucking pissed at me, even though I'm right. All right, Indiana at Orlando. But, I do, everything that I do is looking for spots where I think a team is going to just not have a full effort. I mean, that's everything that I do, but I am telling you that intentionally doing that is not a thing. Indiana is coming off losing to San Antonio by 10. They did just lose at home to Orlando the game before that, so there is a little bit of a zigzag component here, maybe. Although they played Orlando close, but they do have the ability to now go out on the road and try to deliver a loss to Orlando and pay them back. Indiana is coming off a fairly big game, though, like I said, against San Antonio. They did lose by 10. They do have Cleveland up next, but I don't think they overlook Orlando here. Orlando coming off losing to Chicago. That's not great either, but they are returning over from a road trip. They've been on the road since Monday. They went up to Toronto, Indiana, Chicago. It's not the longest road trip, but possibly they could overlook an Indiana team they did just beat during the road trip, but they do only have Washington next, so it's not really a look-ahead spot for Orlando. For me, it's still going to be a slight lean to the Pacers for me in this one. Magic down from 8.5 to 6.5. 61% of the tickets on the Magic, 75% of the cash on the Pacers. So the money is saying the Pacers here. You don't get that key number 7 anymore, though, but that is the way that I would lean in that game if I was going to play it. And for Orlando, I don't even know if they have their guys back. And Wagner and looks like Wagner is still out. And Suggs is actually out as well still. So those guys still not back, I guess, for Orlando. But I like the Pacers in that game. Just very, very slightly, though. No, laziness is not tanking. I just explained the difference. One is intentional and one is not. One is basically like your body just not being able to do it, or mentally you're just not focused, basically. Tanking is like tanking would be you intentionally saying, like, I'm going to physically, like, go in here and like, let this guy run by me. Whereas the opposite of that, just not having the full effort because it's a mental thing is different, where it's mentally you're just not up to it. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's a good explanation, but I don't know. I don't know how I can explain that better. Like, you're not just physically like standing there being like, no, I'm not going to play this game. Whatever. Tanking is not a thing. I'm telling you this right now. Like, I said it last night, I'm going to say it again. It's against human instinct to tank unless there's some ulterior motive there, like you're getting money to just literally go in and throw the game. You don't do it. There's a difference between not being able to put in a full effort. Like, if I go out and I run 10 miles and you ask me to run another mile, am I tanking that extra mile, or am I just dead because I just ran 10 fucking miles? Fuck off. All right. Denver at Brooklyn. This is the play that I have. Saab is spying on me again. We're both Nets whispering here. I shouldn't even give out these plays here because I'm giving out fucking gold here. Nobody appreciates it, apparently. Here we go. The Nets are the play here, obviously. We're taking the Nets +3. I see a lot of 2.5s out there, so obviously try to find the 3. That's what we're doing here. 60% of the tickets are on the Nuggets. It looks like it's down to 2.5, so you're probably missing out on the 3. I'd still probably do it at 2.5. 58% of the cash on the Nets. All right. Denver, they're in a bad spot, man. Denver just lost at Cleveland in a close game, man. They pretty much took Cleveland to the limit, and that was second game without Jokic, but the first game after the injured player spot. So Denver showed up in the first game without Jokic. Like I said, teams step up their level of play when that injured player is down. The first game that he's down, they did that. They had a good game. They got the win. They put in another effort in the next game, man, against Cleveland, and now I think this is going to be a flat spot. I don't see them really being focused on Brooklyn here, and the line looks really, really easy to play Denver in this game, even without Jokic. The public is not going to be doing anything with Brooklyn here. Denver, after this, they play Philadelphia on Peacock, 76ers, and then they play Boston on ESPN after that. So Philadelphia is also tomorrow, by the way. So this is a sandwich spot. I think those two games are bigger, even though they're Eastern Conference games. So is Brooklyn, so whatever. Brooklyn's coming into this game off of a loss to the Washington Wizards by 20 points. So, yeah, you're going to be focused if that happens to you, man. You lose by 20 to the fucking Wizards. That's ridiculous. They're back at home. Yeah, they're playing a third game in 4 days, I know. But 2 of them at home, and one was that quick trip to Washington. Whatever. They're going to show up for Denver, even though it's Jokic-less Denver. They get a chance to beat the Denver Nuggets at home, man. I know Denver's been pretty good on the road, though. Nets are not exactly great at home, but Hopefully we can get the whisper right in this game, whatever. I mean, I'm not trying to Nets whisper here. I'm actually saying this is the best play on the NBA board today. So that's what I'm doing. Brooklyn plus the points. All right, New Orleans at Miami. This one is close to a play for me, actually. New Orleans coming into this game off of losing to Portland. They've lost 6 games in a row now, an extremely streaky Pelicans team. Had 5 wins in a row after breaking their other long loss streak, and now they've lost 6 games in a row. I think they show up for this game. It's a single-game road trip to Miami. I know they have L.A. next to Lakers, but I don't think they overlook Miami. I mean, they're a decent Heat team. Pelicans can't really overlook anybody right now anyway, because they can't win a game right now. Miami just lost a win streak in a tough game against Minnesota. So I think that's bad for Miami. I think that could hang them over. When you lose a win streak, sometimes you lose the game twice, essentially. And New Orleans, very easy team to overlook. And then Miami does have Minnesota up next again. So they're in a Minnesota sandwich here. They're in a Juicy Lucy here. The burger that explodes in your mouth like a burger filled with jizz. The Juicy Lucy. It's the gayest cheeseburger that exists, man. Let's stuff this thing with melted cheese and have it burst in your mouth, man. That's what men eat, the Juicy Lucy. All right. But yes, I think it's a bad spot for Miami. I would play New Orleans in this game if I was going to play it. This is close to being on my card. The Heat are an 8-point favorite, 71% of the tickets, only 58% of the cash on the Heat. So that is the way I would play it. Minnesota at Washington here. Minnesota is in a Heat sandwich, of course. They're in a Miami sandwich. They're in a Cubano sandwich here. They just beat Miami. That was a nice win yesterday. So, yes, Miami and the T-Wolves are both on a back-to-back as well here. So, another reason why that spot for Miami is bad. Minnesota, of course, again, like I said, they have Miami again next, and they have Cleveland twice, San Antonio, Milwaukee with Giannis back, Houston, San Antonio against. This is a bad spot for Miami as well. They could look right past Washington in this spot, man, which is on whatever the fuck this network is. Monument? What the fuck is that shit? MNMT, not MGMT. Do, 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 do. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what else to say about this. Yeah, I mean, I would look towards the Wizards here. The Wizards are coming off that win against the Nets. I expected them to maybe be in a letdown off of beating Milwaukee, but they did not have the letdown. They beat Brooklyn as well easily, but they're not going to be like overconfident, I don't think, by beating Brooklyn. They're going to show up for a game against Minnesota. So, yeah, I would lean to Washington in that game if I was going to play. You're getting a huge underdog price in this game. Money is saying the T-Wolves. I don't agree with that. The Wizards. Do you really think the Wizards are public in this game? There's no way. 62% of the tickets on them, 53% of the cash on the T-Wolves, who have dropped from 10.5 to 10. I think the money is. I think that market read is fucked up. Like, I don't think that's right. Oklahoma City at Phoenix. Of course, Oklahoma City is back to kind of their dominant ways. They just obliterated Golden State. Now they have a second straight road game here at Phoenix. I don't think Oklahoma City is really going to overlook Phoenix. I mean, Phoenix has been all right. Beating an aging Golden State team, I don't think really necessarily puts you in a letdown spot. Phoenix returned home, and they actually were fine in the return home spot, even though normally I talk about how that's a bad spot when you return home, especially when they had Oklahoma City up next. But Sacramento, I believe, my handicap was that they were also in a bad spot in that game. Phoenix took care of business, and they won. But obviously, they're not going to overlook Oklahoma City. So what do you do with this game? I don't know, man. I mean, the market read is saying the Suns. The Thunder are up to a 9.5-point favorite. 60% of the tickets on the Thunder. 82% of the cash coming back on the Suns. So the money is coming in on Phoenix. That's the market read there. That would be the way that I would lean in that game, I guess, just because the market is kind of the deciding factor for me in that one. But I don't have a strong opinion on that one. Milwaukee at Sacramento. Milwaukee just had a close call, almost losing to Charlotte, and now starting a road trip. I think it should be a focus spot. Starting a road trip, usually you want to get the road trip off on the right foot, especially now you're coming off a bad game at home where you almost lost a favorite. I think it should be a focus spot here, but they do play Golden State, then the Lakers, then Denver, then Minnesota, then San Antonio. So they have a lot of bigger opponents coming up on this road trip. So maybe possible. It's still a little bit of a look ahead here. Sacramento is returning from Phoenix. They're playing a third game in 4 days, playing a fourth game in 6 days, all in not all in different cities, but traveling between cities in all of them. So kind of a weird spot for Sacramento here. Coming back home from that, I don't think they're going to overlook Milwaukee, but the spot is maybe a little bit more bizarre for them. The money is coming in on Milwaukee, up from 6 to 6.5. I don't know that I really necessarily disagree with this market here. 64% of tickets, 74% of the cash on the Bucks. So I think the Bucks are probably the right side there, but I don't have a strong opinion there either. Market is saying that, though. Memphis at LA, the Lakers. I got to stop saying LA because there are two LA teams. Memphis, they just played the Lakers in the same venue, so they're playing 2 games in a row at the Lakers. So this is maybe a potential zigzag, but I don't know because the Lakers won the first game by 7, but Memphis was in that game, man. Memphis was close in that game, so how do you determine the zigzag? Like, do the Lakers come out with more intensity because they almost lost the game? Or does Memphis fix whatever went wrong and they show up with more intensity and a better game plan this time? I don't know because I think they had a decent game plan the first time and it didn't work out. The Lakers don't have anything coming up next with New Orleans. They do play San Antonio the day after that, but it's not a direct look-ahead spot here. Maybe the Lakers do make some adjustments to try to fix some things here. I believe they're still without Reeves here, so they're still a shorthanded Laker team here. The money is saying the Lakers, they're up a little bit, 5.5 with juice, 64% of tickets, 72% of the cash on the Lakers, so yeah, I mean, the money is saying the Lakers. I guess I won't totally disagree with it. All right, let's go to the NFL market read here. No, Ben Simmons is just ass. Like, we're using tanking the wrong way. Now, you're just trying to, like, really fucking piss me off, man. I'm already pissed about the losses yesterday. I'm fucking pissed, dude. I apologize for being an asshole. I'm fucking pissed off. I'm correct about this tanking thing. I'm done with it. Let's go to the NFL here. I already gave up my plays in the NFL, which are all 3.5 dogs. New Orleans, Detroit, Pittsburgh. You can go see my analysis on those. I'm going to put it up on Instagram as well, by the way, so you can go check that out. Now, as far as the final market read here in these games, Vikings, this is the last week, so you have to, like, if you're in pick'ems and stuff like that, you got to look at what number you're getting, right? Because I would probably lean towards whatever the value is that you're getting in the number, but the Vikings are up to a 12.5-point favorite now against the Packers. Yes, I think the Vikings will win this game. The Packers are resting everybody, but 63% of tickets, 55% of the cash now. So at 12.5, 13, pretty clear there's like not much value left there on the Vikings, although these types of games tend to kind of go haywire sometimes, man, in the NFL, so I would not want to have a Packers ticket. Let's just put it that way. But I don't want to be laying that many points either, and I know there's no value in it. More of a, it's an easier read for Colts Texans, I think. Texans are still public. I don't really care about a 2% cash differential there, so I still lean to taking the points with Indy in that one. Riley Leonard, remember, is making his debut in that game, though, so the Phillip Rivers fun is over, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens there. Patriots are up to a 13.5-point favorite against the Dolphins. Very, very public. So in this one, I still don't know if I put much weight into even a 5% cash disparity in this one. I think it's probably Dolphins or pass, but I don't want the Dolphins playing in freezing temperatures either, even though it's not Tua anymore. But the Dolphins are still a warm weather team, and Ewers is still not used to playing in cold weather. So I don't want any part of it. But again, as I clarified last night, in Week 18, you do want to, generally you want to take teams that are out of the playoffs when they're playing against teams that are in the playoffs, because the teams that are in the playoffs already, they're only playing for seeding and stuff like that, and they tend to be overvalued in the market. So you almost always want to play on the team that's not making the playoffs because you're going to get that like full effort out of them. And last week, those were 5-1 against the spread. And like I said, the only team in that situation that didn't cover was the Jets. All right. Chiefs, Raiders, the market is still, this is an easier read for me. The market is still saying take the Raiders, take the points at home. probably what I would do, a battle of backup quarterbacks there, unfortunately. Hopefully we get something better out of Kenny Pickett, because I probably will pick the Raiders in my pick'ems. The money is coming in on the Bears, which I don't like, so you can get a better number on the Lions here, the +4, 4.5, whatever. We're still going to fade the Bears, though, in this one. For me, that's one of my plays, so we're going to do it. Yeah, I know my bias is showing, whatever, but that's the way that I look at the game. I gave you the analysis on that. You can get a better number on it. So, yeah, you can take 4, 4.5 there. The market read is still saying to fade the Bills, even though this is their last game at Highmark Stadium, unless they somehow wind up hosting a playoff game, which is unlikely. Although I guess possible. But I'd probably still take the points with the Jets in this one, man. I mean, the Jets have at least shown the ability to somewhat be competitive, although they haven't really shown it with Brady Cook under center yet, so we'll see. But it is a very low total. I don't want to lay points in a game where the Bills might start resting players. So especially if you want the Jets, I think you really got to do it now at +10, because after the 1 p.m. slate finishes, the Bills might actually decide to rest players because they won't be able to even change their seeding. They will have Josh Allen play very briefly at the very least to continue his streak, but I don't think he's going to play the full game. The market read is slightly saying the Ravens. I know we're fading the Ravens here as well. I gave out the reasoning on that. That line's still basically at about 3.5, although that's a night game, so the market read could change in that one. We'll see what happens with that other game that I talked about, by the way, the Bears, because that's a later afternoon game, so we'll see. Cowboys-Giants, I know there's a little bit of a cash differential on the Cowboys there, and I got really pissed off about it last night, but I lean to the Giants in that game still. It's fading the public. That's what I would do. Week 18 is a different animal, by the way, man. Like I said, these cash percentages, it's a little bit different because those are the percentages throughout the entire spectrum of numbers. So you got to take that into account. The Bengals look like maybe they're getting some of the money. I kind of do lean to the Bengals in this one against the Browns. They're up to a 9-point favorite there. In Pick'em, I think it's 6.5 on ESPN, though. So I think it's probably a no-brainer to just pick the Bengals there. But at 9, I don't know, man. They are definitely a public side there, but I don't think I trust the Browns off of their Super Bowl, essentially beating the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. They don't hate the Bengals as much as they hate the Steelers, man. So I don't know. I could see the Bengals getting that one, although, yeah, Browns are the better defense getting points. That one I worry about a little bit. The market read is definitely saying Washington. The Eagles are resting everybody, man. So I don't even know. I looked at who it was last night. I forget who the Eagles' backup quarterback even is here. But it's Washington or pass in that game, I would say. Even though you're only getting 3.5 now, I still kind of feel that way. I mean, I just think you're going to get no effort from the Eagles in this one. Not tanking. They're resting their players, man. There's a difference. The backups are going to try. They just are a way less talented group of guys, and they're coming in not having much experience, not having played much this year, whatever. There is still a difference. The money is all over the Saints here, and you can get 4 and out the Saints. So obviously that's one of my plays. Obviously I still agree with that one. Market agrees with that. The Rams, very, very public side. I would still only play the Cardinals plus the points in that one. You're getting 2 touchdowns with a Rams team that really can't help their prospects too much here. The fact that they want to play the NFC South winner is again, it's media fodder. It's not really a thing that teams really care about that much. So that's that. Rams overvalued. Then we got, the Broncos game is bizarre with the Broncos up to a 2-touchdown favorite as well. The Chargers are resting everybody. So again, these games where the teams are resting everybody, but they're playing a playoff team that's actually trying to advance their seeding. Like with the Broncos against the Chiefs last year, the Broncos ran away with the game, and I could see that happening in this game, man. I don't want to lay 14.5 with a Broncos team that doesn't have a prolific offense, but the Chargers might just lie down in this game, and it could get totally out of hand in this game. Week 18 has some crazy shit that happens, so that might be the case with the Broncos here in this one. We'll see. And then Again, I could see the Vikings-Packers game getting out of hand too, although that's a slightly different game. But that's a game where the Vikings are the team that's not making the playoffs. And I said you do want to be on teams that are not making the playoffs against teams that are. Because the Packers, they're just resting everybody, man. And the Vikings might want to win that game. And then Titans-Jags. The Jags, they're in one of those situations where, again, if they win, they will win the division. So it's a control your own destiny situation. So I would want to fade them, giving away this many points. I think there's no value in the Jags. Yes, of course, I think they'll win the game, but for the spread purposes, I think I would take the points with Tennessee. 84% of the tickets, 87% of the cash on the Jags in that one. So they're a very public side in that one. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on all the games today. Final market reads there. The other games that I have that are not NFL are Southern Illinois in basketball plus the 7, St. Mary's minus the points in college basketball, the Devils underdog on money line, and the Brooklyn Nets plus the points. Got to get it all out on Instagram. That's going to do it. Let's have a winning day. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. He refused to shoot until he was released. I mean, that's a situation, dude. Like, management will just bench a player if he's doing that. Like, it's not a thing where, like, an entire team goes out there and just says, we're going to just stand here and not try in this game. It does not happen. And he had, like, it was a single player doing it. He had extra motivation, like ulterior motives, to do it. So, because he didn't want to play on the team. That's a different thing. He did not want to be there and play on that specific team. Kobe is a fucking pussy, dude. Whatever. Refused to take a charge. He's a bitch. That's not tanking. All right. Stop arguing with me about this. I'm not fucking wrong. Ask any, like, professional handicapper about this. Tanking is not a thing. Everybody completely overvalues it. Oh, my God, this team is tanking to get the number 1 draft pick. That is not a fucking thing. Come back to me when the Raiders beat the fucking Chiefs today as well. And or the fact that the Giants went in and walloped the Raiders last week. Were they tanking? Fuck off. No. That's going to do it. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. I'm not going to block Jeffrey. He subscribes to me on Twitter. No way. He's a regular. I'm not going to do it. I blocked that asshole last night, though. All right. Yeah, Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Like, give me replies here. Subscribe. Even though you hate me because I'm a fucking asshole. We're on audio as well. Give me good reviews on audio. Whatever. Listen on audio, iTunes, Spotify. Covered in Uke is the Uke channel on YouTube. There's bonus stuff on patreon.com/learntotoad. Bonus Uke stuff. We have the Loser Cast podcast that you can go check out as well. Comedy, loser voting, whatever you want to call it. And then I will be on Jules' Great Pill show tonight, which I forgot is a conspiracy show. I've been on his other shows, but not the conspiracy one. So I don't know what we're talking about tonight, but I'll be on that show. I think at around 8 Eastern or something like that. So you can be on the lookout for that. I retweeted it a little while ago as well. So, thank you, God. Thank you. I like Jeffrey as well. All right. I'm a stubborn fuck. All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it as always. I know you guys appreciate me. I did not mean that. I appreciate everybody hanging out, man. I need more. I need more regulars like this, man. I mean, it's pretty much the reason I do the show, because otherwise I'm talking to nobody. So I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I get frustrated. I get these losses. I put way too much time into this. I got extremely stubborn viewpoints. Let's get it done today, man. Peace for now. And I'll figure out when I'm going to do like a bracketology thing. And I'm going to have Clint back on for Bald. I think he said he would do it to predict the NFL playoffs. So that will be playoffs. So that will be coming up sometime in the near future as well. And I might start doing the bracketology series soon. Maybe be doing it on Mondays might make more sense. I don't know. When it's a very low volume college basketball day. I don't know. I'm extremely mad about Trump. As you can see on my Twitter. No, I mean, this is the end of the road for me. No. Regime change wars, fuck off, buddy. And I'm saying that to Trump, not you. Nope. I am absolutely done with fucking Trump. I am furious with Donald fucking Trump. This is not what we voted for him for. No. Fuck all that. He's just like all the other ones. It's all over. I'm unfollowing a ton of these fucking people on Twitter that are all supporting it. It's like 9/11 all over again. And I was one of the people that got that wrong because I was young and stupid. I was 16 back then. I was on board with the wars after 9/11. Not anymore, man. I've learned. These people have not learned. If you're older than I am, especially, you have no fucking excuse. At least back then I had an excuse because I didn't know what was going on and I was 16 or whatever. So I could see it all now, man. So yeah, you were already done with them. Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. All right. All right. I'm also not going to be, one of those like TDSers. I mean, obviously I voted for Trump. I think he's fucking hilarious. I thought that just a lot of his rhetoric was good for a while, but now we're getting a completely different Trump right now. So I'm like way off the Trump train now. That's going to do it. Peace, guys.